STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Welcome to the Randy Karraker Show, featuring Brooke Grimsley. That is obviously not Brooke Grimsley. She's still out on maternity leave, so Matthew Rocchio does a great job of being my co-host. And I hope you're happy. I hope after last night, I hope you've been able to turn it around a little bit and turn that frown upside down, because the Cardinals have another day, another game. They can play today after losing last night 10-9.
No, I can't get over that game. How dare they lose twice in a row?
No.
How dare they? It's beyond the pale. People need to be held accountable. I'm wondering whose chest can I put a finger in? Whose mailbox can I slip a pink slip? Like, let's fire some people. Let's have some revenge for a terrible game by the Cardinals.
Okay, we need you to be a part of this show. We are, after all, a very interactive program, and we're here for you to get things off of your chest. So feel free to chat. And if you were upset by last night's loss, then you're probably even more upset by what the skipper had to say afterwards.
Before you ask any questions, that's probably one of my favorite games. I know we lost, but this group continues to show exactly what they're about, to force their closer in there when you're going into that inning down 4. It's a hell of a job. I mean, it's a good group. They make a lot of contact. I'm sure you guys will ask a ton of questions about that, but that clubhouse continues to show what they're about, and there's a lot to be excited about.
Wait, Ollie. How can a loss be one of your favorite games of the year? You're supposed to be devastated. You're supposed to be despondent. You are supposed to reflect us when you get up to that podium. Come on, Ollie. Now, here's the thing. The Cardinals were quite resilient. I thought the key of the game, Matthew, was after Gorman hits the home run, you tie the game in the 4th, and Mikolas comes right back and gives the tie away by allowing 2 runs in the 5th.
Yeah, that was the most disappointing part. And it's just, for Mikolas, it's just, you know these games are going to pop up, because when you watch, if you watch the game, you know he's giving hittable stuff. And for me, I have not ventured into the Miles Mikolas Baseball Savant page until a good friend of mine was tweeting about it yesterday. And that's when I came across the fact that he is in the number 1 percentile for whiff percentage and number 2 percentile for K percentage. And it just seems to me, if you're in the 1 and 2 percentile for one of the most basic tenets of your job, you're kind of playing with fire at all times.
But that being said, his first loss since April 12th,
Yep.
The Cardinals had won his last 7 starts. This is kind of like that expected runs thing. Would you rather have the win, or would you rather have the metrics?
Yeah.
And I'd rather have the wins, I think.
I'd rather have the wins right now, but I think, is it fair to look at the metrics and wonder if the Cardinals will pull the trigger on maybe having McGreevy take those starts in August instead of Miles Mikolas, because there's a chance that the numbers start breaking towards the numbers we're pointing out across July.
A guy named James Paxton was having a good year for the Doyers last year, and they bring a guy off the IL, and they just DFA'd James Paxton, who was actually having a decent year for them. I can absolutely see the Cardinals doing that, because they are so analytically inclined in that front office, and they look at peripheral numbers. When a guy's doing bad but has decent numbers, aka Matt Carpenter a few years ago, they'll go down the line with him. But if a guy is doing good and the numbers aren't what they like, then they'll cast him aside. I think that you're exactly right. I think that's what they'll do. They're more inclined to look at the process rather than the results.
Yes, and listen, if he's getting people out, you'll roll with it. Like, to your point, you'll roll with results, especially early in the season, especially with a guy who's making some money the way that Miles Mikolas is. But there will become a point where the rubber is going to meet the road, and 3 straight outings for Mikolas. To your point, they didn't lose the other 2, but it is his 3rd straight outing where he's been hit for at least 3 or more earned runs. One of those is 4 earned runs in 4 innings. One of them is last night with the 6 earned runs. The middle one there isn't that actually bad of a game. 3 earned runs in 6 innings. Not terrible.
Quality start.
Yeah, quality start. But it is 2 out of 3 pretty bad starts after a very good run. Again, the point being, none of those games with a good run had good underlying numbers.
Yeah. So again, though, the Cardinals had a guy like Jose De Leon who struck out the world, and every metric was fantastic except for the 1-loss record.
Yeah, that's an important factor.
Yeah. So I think I would, again, I like to win. Let's turn to, we thank you for being a great viewer of the Randy Karraker Show. We thank you for being one of our favorite chatters. And let's turn 2 points out. This is called a losing streak. It has happened before. Yeah, it is. Happy hump day. Thank you, Cole Bassett's left foot. Same to you. Stay patient. All teams have rough stretches. This is what this season is about for the Cardinals. And thank you very much to Brian Ellison for the chat. But yes, all teams have rough stretches. And this season is built upon, and still is, how do these players respond to rough stretches? A guy like Nolan Gorman has had a rough season, right? Rough stretches. All of a sudden you get to June, though, 467 batting average, 529 on base, 933 slug in the month of June, a 1.463 OPS. Last 19 games, 14 for 45, slashing 311, 380, 511, 891 OPS. Yes, it's absolutely about how you react and how you adjust to the adjustments that they've made against you. And that is from a cumulative standpoint as a group and from a player's standpoint. And that's why I didn't have expectations, real high expectations this year. The Cardinals have responded to those things better than I thought they would before he got hurt. Jordan Walker seemed to be arriving. By the way, with Gorman now and the injury, and we don't know the extent of the injury yet to Brendan Donovan. We'll know probably before the game today. Ollie would probably, he's probably speaking to the media right now, as a matter of fact. But they're almost in a situation, Matthew, where with Walker hurt, and if Donovan misses any appreciable time, they'll go from giving Nolan Gorman runway to kind of needing him to produce if they want to have any level of success.
Yes, and it's going to be fantastic. I love that we're seeing the runaway. I was able to tweet out a plane taking off yesterday for Nolan Gorman because he's starting to hit the ball. It's fantastic. We know from last year that the defense will come along when he's able to lock in and play a little bit more often. And so, yeah, I love what we're seeing from Nolan Gorman. The strikeout numbers are always going to be there, but he's pulling things back a little bit. The strikeout numbers are down. He's still not taking walks, but at this point he's hitting the ball. 5 extra base hits over the last couple weeks, over 1,000 OPS over the last 14 games, over 900 OPS over the last 19. Those June numbers, fantastic. So yeah, I'm loving what we're seeing from Brendan Donovan. You hate that these things happen because of injuries, but this is always kind of the silver lining fun when you have some young depth. Is an injury can open the door and give you a chance to watch a player, and that can be fun. Speaking of Brendan Donovan, we haven't gotten more on him, but we do have a lineup for today. Matthew Liberatore facing off against Lauer, a little battle of the lefties. Nolan Gorman batting seventh for the Cardinals, playing second base, and Brendan Donovan not in the lineup.
What's the rest of that lineup look like?
Newt Barr leading off, Wynn in second, playing shortstop, obviously. Herrera at DH at third, Wilsson Contreras at first base, batting fourth, Burleson in right field, Arenado at third base, Gorman at second base, Pozo behind the plate, Victor Scott batting ninth, playing center field, and Matthew Liberatore is your pitcher against, again, another lefty, Lauer.
All right. A couple of more chats from Nommel in the Lou. I've said it all year. Cardinals need pitching, not innings eaters, real pitchers that can get guys out. That was one of the negatives of last year, is that they didn't score enough runs to be able to overcome the innings that didn't include great performances from guys like Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson. But that being said, with this particular team, I don't think, and we can reference Chris Roycroft here, Matthew, I don't think the bullpen is deep enough to have a guy like Blake Snell, who might give you 5 great innings, but then causes your bullpen to get you 12 outs tonight. I just don't think that the Cardinal bullpen is set up that way. I think the Cardinal starting pitching, with the way this team is organized, I think you have to get innings out of your starting pitchers.
Yeah, I think so. And I think this team's kind of built around the fact that as long as we get a certain number of innings out of our starting pitchers, we can lock the game down consistently, game in and game out. And we have contingency plans if we have to use, in a specific situation, if we have to use our big arms, like if we have to use Leahy, Matone, and Helsley in one game, we have contingency plans that we can use 3 different pitchers, assuming we get 6 1/3 from our starter the next day. They've planned it out well. They've gamed it out. As long as everyone does what they're supposed to do, they have a chance at winning almost every baseball game. That's kind of wraps up back to what we've been saying over the last couple of weeks of this. They do everything solidly, which gives them a chance to win consistently.
And that's the way this team is going to be because it doesn't have that superstar. They don't have a bell cow, Albert Pujols, or even a Holiday when he left. They just don't. Do they? I don't think we have a. I guess we do have a double-digit home run guy now, but this is not a team where there's a guy. All due respect to Nolan Arenado, who used to be able to do it, and maybe we just aren't sure about Herrera, but I don't think that there's a guy where you can say, okay, that guy's going to carry us for 3 or 4 weeks during the course of the season. And I think the Cardinals, because of that, need that level of balance that you're talking about so that they can be the best that they can possibly be. I think that they need consistency. And I had that stat yesterday. They really, even in the last 2 weeks, and I know they're playing 500 ball, but the only super hot guys they've had are Nolan Gorman, and I don't even remember who the other one was. Now, the home run the other night lifted the numbers of Herrera too, but they don't have anybody that's carrying the team by any stretch.
No, that's a good thing. That's the thing I like most about this team. The fact that you have a game where Nolan Gorman has a clutch thing, and then later on you have one of your big names in Wilsson Contreras. But Nolan Gorman consistently, I mean, you can frame it either way. And I think a week ago we had a lot of people in the chat pointing out that the middle of the order was really struggling, hitting below the Mendoza line. And you can frame that as, well, that's really bad for the middle of the order, or you can frame it as, even in that stretch, they were winning a lot of games because, to your point, they were getting runs from all parts of the order. The top of the order, sometimes with Newt and Wynn, are going to blow up. Victor Scott, Jordan Walker, and Pozo at the bottom of the order there were making some magic happen when the middle wasn't working. Over the last 2 weeks or so, for the most part, 4, 5, and 6 have been carrying this team, including obviously a big game last night.
Yeah, and they not that they need a win today, but you'd sure like to have one as you wrap up this series, because now you go to Milwaukee, and the Brewers are, as our old friend Steve Savard says, a snootful. And then after that, you've got the White Sox, but you need to take care of business in your division, because this division is going to go down to the last week. And whether it's tiebreaker or just how close things are going to be, the Cardinals are in a position, in my opinion, where when they play the Brewers this weekend, you got 4. Man, winning 2 would be huge heading into Chicago. And then they put themselves in a position now where losing the series to the Rangers, losing the series to the Royals, losing the series to the Blue Jays, they need to do serious damage against lesser teams like the White Sox, the 17th, 18th, and 19th. And then you've got the Reds before the Cubs come to town. Also, while we're talking about the upcoming Cardinals schedule, B-Shafe and I have pointed out the Cubs losing to good teams now that they're playing a legitimate schedule. We also have to point out when they have a really good game and beat the Phillies in a really fascinating game last night. So they did beat the Phillies in kind of commanding fashion. They did look like a very legitimate baseball team. So too legit?
Maybe they are. No, it's the Cubs. They will always. Too legit to quit? They're always Cubs enough to potentially quit. Ellipses 150. I think the Cardinals are smoke and mirrors. I know through May and the first part of June, the Cardinals were one of the hottest team, but I do not believe what I am seeing. And my question to you would be, why exactly? Because I'm not saying there's not room to have that kind of doubt, but I need to know exactly what your doubt is. Is it the back end of the starting pitching? Is it the depth of the potential bullpen? Is it the offense that you're not buying into? I need to know exactly why, or what part of this Cardinals team you think are smoke and mirrors. Because even like the Athletic the other day put out a little blurb about the Cardinals in one of Ken Rosenthal's piece with another writer. And I think it was the other writer, not Ken Rosenthal, who talked about how the Cardinals are one of the top OPS teams, but they're average and everything else. And then he threw out a defensive metric where they finish 11th in the league. And I'm like, whoa. You can't throw out one defensive metric where they're 11th in the league and forget about like outs above average where they are first by a wide gap. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a weird move. Like you can be a little, it was a weird move.
But, well, I think there's, especially when Kevin Rosenthal is involved, I think there's a little bit of a narrative that comes into play that they want to have in place. I can see, if you are somebody who believes that track record is what wins, that you can say, okay, the only 2 guys that really have a track record here are Arenado, who's clearly on the back 9, and Contreras. But over the course of time, you haven't seen Newbar do it. You haven't seen Scott do it. You haven't seen Walker do it. You haven't seen Pages or Herrera, or I'm going to put Brendan Donovan in the former group. I'm going to say he's a guy that's done it in the past, but then even Wynn. And like you just talked about, the underlying numbers for Miles Mikolas aren't that great. I think you can say that about Andre Palante if you want. You've never seen Liberatore do it on a consistent basis. Sonny Gray, at his best a couple of years ago, was a nice number 2, but he's also 2 years older. So I see Eric Fetty as a guy that when he showed up last year, 4 months into the season, was gassed. Is he going to be able to maintain? Helsley isn't what he was last year. So if you want to make that judgment about this team not being real, but I think it is, but if you want to make the argument that it's not, I just gave you a pretty good argument of why you could have the opinion that it's not.
Yeah, I just don't know how I'm supposed to take comments like this pitching staff. Sonny is atrocious.
Yeah,
3 out of 4 of his last starts have been scoreless.
He's been a stud,
and he's gone 6 to 7 innings in all 4 of them. The one is a 6-inning start where he allowed 3 earned runs, which again is a quality start. I know people don't like the stat.
It's a great stat,
but it is what it is. This could be Ben says the Cards play up or down to the competition. I know that's been a narrative since around 2016. I don't feel like that's been very true this season, though.
No, they're beating teams with winning records. They're beating the better teams actually, and
that would be playing up to. I mean, that would prove that they're playing up to their competition.
Yeah,
though. But how are they against bad teams? I guess
teams with losing records.
Yeah.
Well, they haven't played a ton of them, but I have no problem. You play the teams that are on the schedule in front of you. And I don't know that there's an awful lot that they can do about whom they beat as long as they beat them. And right now, they've won enough. And sure, are they comparable to the Dodgers or the Padres or the Mets or the Phillies or the Braves? No. But they are, for a team that is supposed to be giving runway and in a transition and moving on and have a group of young players. Here they are 2 games out of the wild card in the National League, more than a third of the way through the season.
Oh, do you see the Braves in there?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
But yeah, the Braves are 9.5 out.
Yeah, I know.
But I still think the Braves are pretty good. I think I would not mind being a fan of the Braves. As a matter of fact, I think when the Braves come into town in a couple of weeks, I think the Cardinals will have their hands full with them.
That's fair. Bill Downton, we don't have any true strikeout pitchers. Roycroft had 2 in 1 inning, the other 3 over 8 innings. Listen, Chris Roycroft has had 3 straight outings in a row that have been rough, and the fact that he had 19 days of rest between outings 2 and 3 probably says something, but it's just, you've been in a couple rough games, people have been taxed, and you had to go to one of the arms that you're still paying money to, and he got tagged for one on the top of the ninth. I'm sure they're probably figuring out other situations. I will say, if they don't make some kind of move, and I know they have to change things on the 40-man to get a guy like Granillo up, it would be kind of crazy to me to continue giving a guy like Chris Roycroft chances when you have somebody like Granillo in the minors. That would be a mistake. Right? Like, we can all agree with that.
Yeah, and I think Chris Roycroft, who is, by all accounts, a great fella, but
why do we have to do that every time?
Well, because that's when we say, he's not pitching well. But there's a reason that guys are pitching in independent league baseball, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden find themselves in the major leagues. He wasn't the most successful pitcher when he arrived he wasn't a first-round draft choice when he arrived on the scene here. And then look at what he's done. I mean, just look at the numbers. So it's not great. By the way, we do get this chat, and we do appreciate it. Bernie did a video yesterday about the pitching staff ERA with Pages catching versus the other ones, and look back at Liberatore's last 5 games have been with Pozo, and they have not been good. And Pozo's catching for him today. Yeah, Pedro Pages has a catcher's ERA that is well beyond and better than the other catchers on this staff, and that's something that they really care about. That's one of the reasons that they like to have Pages in a game, because they think that he gives them a significantly better chance to suppress the opposition's offense than do either Pozo or Herrera. So Pages is their guy for a reason.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I think I'm okay with that as long as you utilize that roster spot with guys like Pozo in a useful way. And yes, I'm not over the Valade stuff from yesterday yet, or 2 days ago yet. I'm not over that yet, because if you're not going to have a very large bench and you're not going to use your bench very often, I think it's fair to criticize the times when you do.
Well, And by the way, I am with you. I would have let Gorman hit there. But that being said, if it's not Valade up here, you want Sajaci? Is that what you're saying? That you'd like him to be your 26th guy on the roster?
I would. I mean, mainly because I'm big on the meritocracy aspect of things, and the kid was hitting when he was here. You don't expect him to. It would be ridiculous to expect him to continue to hit at that level, but he did it. Why not give him the chance?
But he would be a bench player.
Yeah, and I understand that they don't want to keep him on the bench. They want him to play every day. I get that line of thought. Everybody in baseball pretty much agrees that that's the smart thing to do. So I can't disagree with it. So you're right there.
Okay,
that's fair.
Right.
That's fair. You're right.
So
damn it.
Here's the thing.
I want to be mad. I want to be a little bit righteous and a little righteous indignation.
Yeah.
How dare the manager make a move that makes sense when you actually dig into the real logic that he had to use. No, I want to use my logic. I reject your reality and substitute my own.
Yeah. By the way, the Cardinals have fallen all the way to 10th in the National League in starters ERA, which is not great. The Mets still lead the way. They've been great. The Cardinals, though, if you want to go a little sunshine lollipops, their starters ERA is better than the Doyers.
Okay, yeah, we'll take that. The Dodgers are adding a pitcher to their rotation though in the next month or so.
Yeah, they are. Maybe a couple, maybe three,
maybe one of them is Shohei freaking Ohtani. So no big deal. No, it's just.
Well, I think they might be adding 3 Cy Young Award winners if I'm not mistaken, because they get Snelly back, right, and then they get Ohtani, and then who else? Glasnow comes back at some point too. I thought they had another. They have another good pitcher on the shelf. So yeah, they're pretty good.
And this is why when you asked me if I expected the Dodgers staff to be different in October, yeah, a little bit. I expect it to be a little bit different in October. Cole Bassett's left foot with an interesting question here. Seriously, how can a catcher increase a pitcher's ERA? Calling the game, pitch framing, confidence factor.
It makes a huge difference. Calling the right pitches, knowing your pitcher's strengths and the hitter's weaknesses plays a huge role in the success or lack of success of a pitcher. That's why one of the reasons, not why, but one of the reasons that Yadier Molina was so good over the years, because he understood how to develop a game plan. He was almost a savant at knowing when to throw what pitch, and he was trusted implicitly by his pitchers. And usually the great defensive catchers are. That's what makes the difference, is having a pitcher be convicted in the pitch that he's throwing and then throwing it and executing in a great manner. It really is interesting when you look around baseball, what a difference it makes.
So we've come to a agreement on maybe the need to change out the back end of the bullpen. But the reactions I've seen, not just yesterday, but combining over the last 3 or 4 games, and yes, they're probably overreactions, but do you think that we're seeing some cracks in the pitching foundation? And do we need to maybe do the Cardinals need to make some moves, not just in addition to a Granillo for whatever bullpen arm, but obviously I think people want to see a quicker trigger pull on the McGreevy factor.
Well, that would theoretically help your bullpen. But I don't think the Cardinals want to give up on Gray or Mikolas. I think the best would be Palante, the best opportunity to enhance your bullpen, get McGreevy up here, maybe replace Roycroft, because Gray's going to start. Liberatore is going to start. Mikolas, for better or worse, is going to start. And Fetty is going to start. So maybe if you aren't using a 6-man rotation, you can get McGreevy up here and put a guy like Palante in the pen. Now,
I'd like that.
But here's the other question that you have, because you might not realize this, but you are playing a political game here as well. And if you're going to put somebody in the rotation, how do you tell Steven Matz you're not the guy? He's going to be a free agent. Free agent starters make way more money than free agent relievers do. He's done everything that you have asked him to do. So while I understand putting McGreevy in the rotation, when you look at the political aspect of things in a clubhouse, how do you put McGreevy in there and tell Matz, no, you aren't going in? From a business perspective.
we pay you to pitch, not ask questions about when you pitch.
But see, it's not just him. The other 25 guys are looking. They're watching too. And they see how players are treated down there. And that does make a difference. The morale of a club does make a difference.
You don't think players understand the long game that teams have to play?
Oh, they understand, but they also understand that nobody loves them like they love them.
That's fair. That's
and
true.
If a player is perceived, not even really mistreated, but perceived as being mistreated by a team, then the other players tend to notice. Look at what happened, and Brendan Schaefer brought this up yesterday, a couple of years ago, when the clubhouse for Milwaukee got a load of them trading.
Yeah, that's true.
Josh Hader, their closer. I talked to so many players over the years that say, yeah, it makes a difference. And on the other end of the spectrum, if you go out and get a guy and you, without words, but by your actions, you tell your team that, okay, we like what you've done and we're going to help you guys out, that energizes a team. And moves like that, well, players would be very happy for McGreevy. I think that they would also say, okay, well, what more does Matz have to do? Because they like Matz. He's really popular in the clubhouse.
That's fair. Ellipses 150. Also, what is it with the Cardinals' inconsistency with six-man rotations? 1 week they're doing it, next week they are not. Then they're doing it again. Surprise! Now they are not. I feel like they're sticking to we're not doing it because it taxes the bullpen in a weird way.
Well, it's all about the schedule.
Yeah, that too.
And they've got an off day coming up next week, right?
Yeah, it's the one.
Yeah, and so it's all about playing a lot of games. They're off on the 16th. So it's all about playing a lot of games within a condensed period of time. They're playing 28 games in 28 days. And once they come out of the 16th and they don't have another off day until July 2nd or 3rd, let me make sure I get this right, July 3rd. So they go from the 17th through July 3rd without an off day. You'll see the six-man rotation put back in. That's why you see the inconsistency. It's all about the schedule, and it really doesn't have anything to do with the bullpen. It's all about the schedule and protecting those arms. Keep in mind, and this is an amazing statistic, I don't know if this is made of wood or not, but the Cardinals have only placed one pitcher on the IL this year.
That's not going to last.
And that's Zach Thompson. It's amazing that you could be a third of the way into the season, though, and you haven't had pitching injuries, and you haven't had to put a single guy on the IL. This, again, I'm knocking on wood. That is a reason for the Cardinals not having a pitcher placed on the IL, is because they've utilized the data that they have collected to try to find out how they can keep pitchers healthy, and they're doing it. And I said to Ollie Marmol the other day, I said, the Dodgers are going to come to you and ask how you did this.
That's not the team that he needs to be worried about calling him. He needs to be worried about St. Louis City SC calling him from down the road and being like, so how do we not break all our players? How do we get this figured out?
Well, you don't throw 120 pitches. Here's the data I have. But I think other baseball teams will take note of the health of the Cardinal rotation and bullpen this year. And I think that's one of the things that when we talk about the 5 versus 6-man rotation and the inconsistency, there's a method to their madness that's leading to the Cardinals not having pitchers on the IL.
Which is why Randy's super confident in Sonny Gray's ability to pitch through October this year.
Oh, yeah, because he is, well, just wait. In July, Sonny Gray is going to get protected. And that's a good thing. I'm happy about it. But we talk about the 6-man rotation. There will be a scenario unfold in July in which you might expect Sonny Gray to start, and he won't. So the Cardinals, not having a day off until July 3rd, they're off on July 7th. And then the next week they have the All-Star break, 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. And then they're back in action again until the 30th. My guess is that you probably see Sonny Gray in that the fifth to last start before the break. So let me count back. 1, 2, 3. Probably see him against the Nationals maybe on the 9th or the Nationals on the 10th. And then I would think that we might not see him again until the Cardinals' 5th game back after the break, which would be at Arizona on July 20th. I think that he will experience a significant amount of time off, and that's one of the ways that they'll protect him. Hey, that's a good thing too. You got to protect your pitchers. It's pretty cool. Hey, we want you to know about our friends at the Fenton Bar and Grill. I was just texting with the 2024 Maitre D of the Year, Chuck Nash, and Chuck does great things, obviously, with Fenton Bar and Grill. Check out their patio. It's one of the great patios in town. They've got a wonderful staff there. Say hi to Megan and Jamie. They're fantastic. Casey is great over there. Candy, the whole staff is just wonderful. And they're going to serve you some of the best food you'll ever have. You see those trashed wings on the left? Those are absolutely delicious. They have great gumbo on Thursdays. Man, stop by tomorrow and have some of that gumbo at the Fenton Bar and Grill. Great drink specials, $2 beer specials as well when you're in there for a game. And then the toasted ravs. And don't forget their happy hour, which is fantastic from 2 to 5. Try some of those mini tacos, 6 for $6. The spicy cheese curds, 6 for $6. Warm day like today, 90 degrees in St. Louis. How about one of their fabulous salads? They have a great chef salad. I love their chicken Caesar. But by all means, when you go to Fenton Bar and Grill, you're going to do what they're doing in the middle of the screen. You're going to load up your wings with one of their great sauces, their signature golden sauce, that they're putting on right there. Or you can do what I do and get their trash wings with ranch. They're absolutely delicious. They're succulent, and you will love the trashed wings at the Fenton Bar and Grill. There you see on the bottom of the screen, 701 Rudder Road in Fenton, just 2 minutes away from the soccer park in Fenton. It is the Dive with a Vibe. Easy to get to. Learn more at FentonBarandGrill.com. When you go, tell them Randy sent you. And now we are going to head to the Zoom, and Russ Brandon, who is the CEO of the United Football League, joins us here on the Randy Karraker Show on Matrix, or rather on STL Sports Central. Great to have you with us, Russ. Thanks so much for taking the time with us. How are you?
Hey guys, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
Good to have you with us. How excited are you about the game on Saturday between the Michigan Panthers and the team that we love to hate now here in St. Louis, the DC Defenders?
I'll tell you guys, the 4 best teams were in the playoffs, and I know for Battlehawk fans, disappointment with the outcome, but DC played a flawless game. Michigan's been doing it all year. Their quarterback there has been outstanding, Perkins, and it's good. It should be a heck of a football game. 2 very well coached teams, and it should be a great game. And we look forward to St. Louis being a championship city to come out and support these guys like they have all year with the Battlehawks.
Absolutely, and it's gonna be a fun game, and obviously capping off this season so far. So, before going into this season, what were the goals of the UFL in 2025? And as you look towards the end of the season, how did you guys go about? Did you fill those goals this year?
Yeah, I think going into the season, you're always looking to put as many people in the stands to come out and enjoy the experience that we put on. When you look at it, this is really month 15 of the UFL. We went through the XFL, Legacy XFL, Legacy USFL, did the merger a year ago. We're drinking out of a fire hose coming out of that because that happened in mid-January. So just to have the opportunity to really start to build in our marketplaces, obviously St. Louis is a flagship franchise. From day one, it's been incredible. And we continue to build on that here and are looking to really replicate that throughout the league. So really blessed to have St. Louis in this league.
Hey, Russ, you're a longtime football guy, both in the NFL and the UFL. What did you think of the quality of play that the league delivered this year?
Really, really, Randy, happy with that. When you look at the numbers of our league, we have 400 players in our league. Over 300 guys have been in an NFL camp, have rostered in the NFL at some point. We had 187 signings last year in the National Football League, and over the last 3 years, we have 51 guys that are rostered or in the NFL at some point. The merger going from 16 teams to 8 really improved the roster makeup, and you can just see it now since 6 teams are out of it. How many guys have signed tryout contracts in the NFL? I think we're over 50 already. So really pleased with the process. We've got good football people around it, and Daryl Johnston, who you all know, Doug Whaley, the former general manager of the Buffalo Bills, Jim Popp, the former general manager of the Montreal Alouettes. So and just a lot of football people around it. So I think, guys, the one thing, Randy, I don't hear anymore, are you coming back? Is this league going to survive? And that also translates down to agents. And, hey, am I going to take a leap of faith with this league? Is it just not going to be here? That ship has sailed. We're building for the long haul. And this league is going to be sustainable. And it is a tremendous opportunity. We call ourselves a league of opportunity for our athletes. We know that a lot of these guys are trying to get back to the NFL, but we also know that some guys are just love football and want to continue to play the game they love. And we focused heavily on player development, as you all know. We have a relationship with the National Football League on rules, innovation, technology, and it's just been a joy to build it and see these athletes achieve their dreams.
Okay, so one of the reasons, and we hear it from fans here too, because they watch the games on TV and they don't see an awful lot of fans. I would think that's one of the reasons that you get that question, Russ. So how do you fix that around the league to get more people into the stands and make the product, I guess the word is, more appealing on TV because you have people there?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, that's our number one off-season initiative, Randy, for certain. We have markets like St. Louis, like I said, is a flagship. DC does extremely well. We do very well in San Antonio, and you're just trying to bring that energy into the marketplaces. We only have 5 games. We're super family affordable, which we're continuing to bring that to our fan bases, and just need to just grind. And there's no silver bullet. Being a part of each community, we've done a really good job with that as we've built this. But yeah, no, you're right. I mean, we're really pleased with our ratings. We've had 7 or 8 games over 1 million. We touched 2 million in one of the ratings on Fox. ABC's been right at 1 million pretty much on all of their games. And this past weekend, we averaged about 1.1 million. So, most leagues would give their eye teeth for those kind of numbers. But to your point, the energy in the buildings and more fans in the buildings make a better atmosphere all the way around.
You mentioned the community aspect of things going forward into 2026 and in the future. Is what is your plan to I guess strengthen the connection between the teams and the communities if they're not here on the weekly basis and they're continuing to practice in the one hub? What is the plan to continue that community outreach, and how do you guys do that?
Yeah, we every time we land in a marketplace, we are off into the community and doing things that are set up. You guys know Brian Stull, and Stully's got in the team over there. We're always somewhere when we hit St. Louis, as an example, and in every market. And as you guys know, being in the NFL as long as I was, really in the season, Tuesday is the only day that they have off, and you might do some community events on Monday. But other than that, there's not a ton that you can do. And we're trying to find different ways to come into markets earlier, do more off-season programming. We have a full-time Battlehawk staff as well. So our staff is out in the community on a weekly basis, pushing the Battlehawks, being a part of the community, know that, we are here for the long haul. But that's the secret sauce, absolutely. Trying to do more and more in the area. We've been super fortunate. We have a head coach here in Anthony Beck that embraces that. He's very active on social media with our fan base. So we're trying to replicate that again across the board. And like I said, St. Louis has been the standard from day one.
Hey, Russ, a couple of more things. One of the things when the original XFL started was talking about embracing gambling. And we all know that that's one of the reasons that football is as popular as it is. Is that still a thing, though? As you guys have done your research and due diligence in having this league advance, does it make much of a difference if you embrace gambling, whether it's on your telecasts or with your advertising partners?
Yeah, Randy, it's funny. I always joke that, all the years in the NFL and the owners' meetings, if you said the word gambling, I think they had an eject button that would be popped out of there. And now we talk, it's just amazing to me. But, from that standpoint, we've embraced it. If you watch the telecast, sometimes I can't believe you see Aaron Dolan on ESPN talking about the lines and the shifts and halftime and all those different things. And we've been patient with it as far as trying to build it the right way, have the right partner. As you see this week, the game is sponsored by Underdog, and which is a daily fantasy platform and gambling. So it's just a different world that we're trying to navigate the right way and properly execute. But we know it's a huge part of what our game and the popularity of it.
You mentioned the sustainability going forward. For you, does that sustainability come from the quality of football, the ability maybe to be a proving ground for new concepts within the game that maybe the NFL isn't willing to try or college football isn't willing to try? For you, what is the main guiding reason as to why sustainability in the 2026 and 2027 is so viable in your mind?
The landscape has changed completely in the game. I mean, just look what's happening in college right now. Player development needs to improve across the board, and everyone thinks it's quarterback play. It's offensive line. It's corner play. And like I said, our partnership with the NFL is very meaningful from the standpoint of, like I said, rules, technology, innovation, how we do things differently, bring the content to our fan base on television, in stadium. They can hear Mike Pereira and Dean Blandino speaking to the referees. We're very transparent, as you know. We have the super challenge. We do some things differently. And as you know, in Legacy XFL, the NFL worked with us for a couple of years in data mining what the kickoff looked like at that time, and then implemented their own kickoff, right? So it's a combination of a lot of things. But there is definitely a need for developmental spring football and in a standalone professional spring league. And we see it in the numbers, guys. I mean, people are watching it. We need more people in the building, as we talked about. But there's a platform here that we believe is for the very long term.
I want to touch on developing quarterbacks. You, as much as anybody, know how difficult it is to find a guy and have him become the guy. You drafted a few in Buffalo that didn't work out. Kind of a two-part question here. What?
One has.
Well, that's true. He's pretty darn good.
He's pretty good.
And that's Josh Allen. What makes it so hard? Why is it that we can see a guy that is even productive in college and then can't do it in the NFL? I guess if you knew, then you'd be the highest paid GM in the league. But from your perspective, what do you think it is?
It's the hardest position, Randy, in sports, and there's, my son played at Boston College. He's a quarterback the last 4 years. He had 4 coordinators in 4 years. And, that's learning French, Spanish, and Italian, and you go down the line, right? So, there's a lot of different factors. And you look at, some of the most successful franchises. Unfortunately for me, I was in Buffalo during the heart of Tom Brady. And that was continuity. It was consistent coordination. It was Coach Belichick. And you look at all the success, in Pittsburgh with continuity and from, Coach Tomlin and Ben and everything on that front. I think you see that more and more. You see San Francisco with Kyle and staying with coaches, and you're not flipping every 3 years. I think that says a lot. But it's a difficult position. The position has changed over time. I mean, think about all of our years watching it, from, the guys that were statues in the pocket, and now, the guys like Lamar that are so brilliant and talented and can move like they do. So it's also interesting, the evolution of the position as well. But it is, Randy, we'd all be in the Hall of Fame if we knew how to really pick those guys and consistent. You look what Bill Polian's done, Jim Kelly in Buffalo, and then goes, and what people forget, and I know you don't, there are a lot of people that had Ryan Leaf above Peyton Manning on the board, and Bill took Peyton, and the rest is history.
As we're talking about your past in football, I need to ask this question because as a young football fan, two icons that I gravitated towards were Joe Gibbs and Marv Levy. So my question for you is there one piece of football knowledge or advice from Marv Levy that you remember that comes first to your mind?
Oh my gosh, that is one of the great questions. Someone who I admire and love and respect so much in Marv. He'd always say, well, if you listen to the fans, you end up sitting with them. And
I like that. That's a good one.
He obviously, his relationship with that team, and I was on the tail end of Marv in that team, but learned so much from Marv. and one of the most wonderful gentlemen, one of the smartest individuals I've been around, but he had a way to connect that team together. And you had a lot of big personalities with Jim and Thurman and Bruce Smith and Andre Reed and Steve Tasker. You can go on and on. One of the greatest dynasties in sports history. And the key was Marv Levy.
Russ, the tickets available for the UFL Championship game Saturday night at the Dome. They're available at theufl.com. And just judging from, even though it was disappointing for me as a St. Louis fan, but man, you see the way that the Defenders played here. You see the way that the Panthers played in their championship game, in the USFL Championship game. If it's anything like the way they performed last week on Saturday, we're in for a heck of a matchup.
100%, Randy. I so much respect for both head coaches. Coach Nolan does an amazing job in Michigan. But Shannon Harris took over 1 week prior to the regular season when Reggie Barlow went to Tennessee State. And then Greg Williams left a week later as defensive coordinator. And all he's doing is sitting in the championship game. And it says a lot about his character and how he has evolved that roster to get to this point and kept the team together. So I have a lot of respect for Shannon and what he's done. It should be a heck of a football game.
Looking forward to it, Russ Brandon. Thanks so much for the time. We do appreciate it. And I will see you Saturday night at the Dome.
Look forward to it. Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Russ.
Russ Brandon. He is the president and CEO of the UFL Championship game. It doesn't include the St. Louis Battlehawks, but still, it should be a fun football game on Saturday night. And Matthew, I was just on the site. Tickets as low as $20. They talk about it being a family atmosphere. You can see a championship game for $20. Bring a family of 4 for $80. Go out and tailgate ahead of time. If you check the weather, let's check the Saturday weather. Go out and have a great tailgate before an 8 o'clock start. It'll still be light outside, and I think you'll have a great time. Oh, chance of rain, but that's okay. Just get something convenient to eat.
I think that we got some comments in the chat that I think were funny, Randy, because Lex Luthor says the day after you expect the NFL, you say that you expect the NFL to cease to exist, you have the UFL CEO on. Awkward. Or that's the responsible thing to do. We have the ability to have the guy on and ask him the question and expressly ask him why he specifically believes in the viability of this league going forward. And, is it just a training ground for the NFL? Is it a proving ground? What have you? Sorry, my iPad keeps screwing up as I try to do multiple things at once here. I wanted to get that answer from him. And so that's exactly why, after we make that statement, we have him on. Not awkward. I think that's a very good job by the UFL for giving him us.
Not only that, but obviously if agents are asking, they say, if agents are asking, hey, are you going to be around next year? We're asking. That's a question that needs to be answered. And I think that clearly on the part of those people, there's concern, but both Russ Brandon and Daryl Johnston have really good answers. And I'm interested in, and I'd never dive deep into TV ratings. I don't know, but I can tell you this. There was a story in The Athletic just last week about how throughout the NHL playoffs, up until and through the conference championships, they average less than 1 million viewers nationally in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Jesus. And the UFL is drawing more than 1 million viewers nationally.
Pretty good. We'll take that.
Yeah. So I would guess that, and the number of viewers is the key now. It's not where you rank, it's how many eyeballs that you're getting to. And if the UFL is getting to those eyeballs, then that does give them an opportunity.
And again, I like the idea. The fact that the NFL, went to school on their kickoff is, I thought that was such a perfect thing to happen right out of the gate for the UFL, because I think it showed we need to be the proving ground for these things. If they're not willing to take the risk, we'll take the risk. We'll try things out. Let's keep pushing the envelope. And you know what? To his point, the one thing they didn't push the envelope on that the NFL did was the gambling aspect of it. And I think that was smart, letting the NFL go big time as the big thing. We'll focus on development. We'll focus on some crazy rules. We'll get a little wacky with things. Heck, I think if I'm in the UFL, I'm doing things like I'm bringing in the running start from Canadian football next year. I'm bringing in every different kind of football rule I can think of just to try it and see if it works alongside the other rules that we have in the league, that are basic NFL rules.
And this is a question for another day, but I think this makes sense. Tell me if you think it makes sense. What I would do is I would ask NFL teams, okay, do you want to have your guy develop your young quarterback and get a quarterback coach or an assistant quarterback's coach with a team, and it's a package deal, the assistant quarterback's coach and the quarterback, so that you can develop a young guy. Just think about Will Howard, okay, who was drafted by the Steelers. And I know that players or coaches like to have their players with them. They want to have their hands on those guys. But if you can get a young quarterback playing experience and he's coached by somebody from your staff, how advantageous would that be?
That's why I've always thought a official work where an official connection where, and they had it like this with the NHL. You don't need 30 teams or 32 teams. You have it to where the Battlehawks are the team for the Colts, the Bears, what have you. And yeah, things might get a little tricky. Who's your coaching staff then? Are they playing the scheme we want? Yeah, there are problems there. But the issue there isn't that it's needed. The issue is that we need more of it. You need more specified things. And that's obviously, there is no infrastructure. There's not enough money for that. But that's what the league needs. It's what the NFL desperately needs. And I think it would make for a better league in both cases.
I am with you. Hey, speaking of gambling, I am all over the NBA tonight. Yes. Tyrese Halliburton, points, rebounds, and assists, 30.5. At home,
take it.
In a game like this, he's going over. He's going over 30.5 points, rebounds, and assists. So that's my first thing on DraftKings Pick 6. And if you are a sports fan, which you are because you're tuned in right now, you need to check out DraftKings Pick 6. And you can play basketball, you can play hockey, you can play football when it's in season, and you can play baseball. And with my partnership with DraftKings Pick 6, it's the all new way to play fantasy sports. And all you need to do is use that code there, STL Sports, and you can play DraftKings Pick 6. So I've got Halliburton. That is part of what I'm doing. And then, Matthew, I'm going to go a little MLB here because I'm intrigued by what we have going today here at the ballpark. And the Cardinals obviously wrapping up things with the Toronto Blue Jays. And I'm just kind of thinking that Matthew Liberatore, with the way things have gone lately, I think that he's due for a good game against a team that does not strike out much. And so in addition to my basketball bet, I'm going to go with Matthew Liberatore to go over 3.5 strikeouts.
All right, I'm sticking all with basketball because I'm taking more on anything Tyrese Halliburton right now, and I'm also going to take anything more on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You can't stop him.
Nope.
They're going to try to, but
these
teams are going to lock in. And even though I think we're going to see a lot of Carson Wallace or Cason Wallace, you're going to see a lot of Nick Caruso, you're going to see a lot of J-Dub, you're going to see a lot of Lugens Dort being thrown at Halliburton. I still think he's going to get his. I'm with you on that one.
All right. It's easy to start, fun to follow, and gives you a whole new way to stay connected to the game at DraftKings Pick 6. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app today and use the code STL Sports right there on your screen when you sign up, only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right. Matthew has not changed dramatically. You're going to see here in just a moment that Matthew is that's a different looking guy. That's Ken Dubinsky, who is one of our favorite people. By the way, I got the note yesterday that the Demetrius Johnson Charitable Foundation Golf Tournament is coming up. Are you going to be attending on that Saturday?
June 28th, I believe, right?
Yes, sir. So, okay, we'll be there. We always want to preserve the legacy of the great Demetrius Johnson. He was such a huge advantage for our community, and he built such a great legacy, and it does need to be maintained.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was up at Mizzou last week, and it was such a pleasure to see his plaque up there in the player room being remembered there as well.
So June 28th, it's a Saturday, and it's up in North County at Eagle Springs, and you can learn more by just going to just Google the Demetrius Johnson Charitable Foundation. All right, you just brought in these cool chips that have Wilsson Contreras on the cover. Tell us about these.
So really excited to partner with somebody like Wilsson. I've done a couple pro players, but certainly a 3-time All-Star as Wilsson is a great thrill. And being a lifelong Cardinal fan, it's great to do my first baseball player. So to my knowledge, he's the first baseball player to have his own potato chip.
Wow.
And pretty excited. I know he's real excited about him. I saw Mikolas was nice enough to put him out. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw that. Yeah, it was
put him
great.
out at when he did a press conference that day. We had just gotten the team some that day. So it's a hot honey barbecue. Really excited to get out there. It'll be available at all Schnucks stores across St. Louis, Metro East as well. And also all the Mobile on the Run stores and other top convenience stores on the old Vienna rack. And
he is a guy, Wilsson Contreras, who's great not only for our community but his home country of Venezuela, right?
Yeah, we actually highlight that on the package on the back that he's very active in the I Love Venezuela organization and also a number of things here in the St. Louis community.
And are these out now?
They are.
Okay, so you
stores this week.
Yeah. So pick them up at Schnucks. And I always see Old Vienna, like when you did the Luther Burden chips, they were always available at On the Run stores. Are these going to be pretty much everywhere that Old Vienna snacks are available?
Yeah, should be at the top convenience stores all around the city, and they've been a great partner, as you mentioned, on the Luther chips and these as well, and obviously want to mention Mobile on the Run too. They've been great, and Schnucks has always been great. Jason Reed's a great partner there, and he's always been a big backer of these chips and getting them out into the stores. And Schnucks obviously is so local oriented and always supporting local. And this is just another example of that.
Ken Matthew Rocchio already trying them and already giving them the thumbs up.
Good. We like that.
We are off and running.
Oh, look at that in the corner there. Very nice.
That's good.
Yeah, I tell you, we've had a great response on this hot honey barbecue flavor. Just right amount of sweet and heat. And I try to not. Whenever I start eating them, I don't stop till the end of the bag. So,
does the player do taste tests for these?
Yeah, they do. I mean, he's got approval rights on the chip itself and on the design. So a lot of times very active. And I know we got from his agent when he got the actual product, a one-word text, amazing.
Oh, so, great. Fantastic.
Very excited.
Ken also involved with One True Tiger and what's going on in the NIL space with the University of Missouri. But overall about what's going on. Let's start with this. Was when the final ruling came down on Friday night about the House settlement, was there anything there that surprised you?
Not at all. I mean, it was always just a matter of getting it done, which was important to get it done before the July 1st start date. Every college in the country is making plans to abide by the ruling that finally now is in place. So there was nothing surprising.
Okay, well, I want to start with a big question, and then we'll get into some minutia. But the big question that I have is, because you made a deal with Luther Burden outside of the purview of the collective at the University of Missouri. Will that still be allowed, to your knowledge?
Yeah, absolutely. And really what I always felt good about when we did it, and with DJ, mentioned DJ, obviously, I always felt good that what we did with the chips, with Luther, with Mark Mitchell, was really true NIL, truly paying them for their name, image, and likeness. And so many of the dollars that are being thrown around really are not that, have not been that. So it was kind of through the collectives and basically just being paid to go there. But I always felt good that we were truly paying them for their name, image, and likeness as they're on the chips. And so with that now, I very happy there will be no issue going forward. The NIL, true NIL, what I call true NIL, will go through this clearinghouse. I think they call it NIL Go. I think
is personally that through college football, or is that through the individual institutions?
Through college football.
Okay,
so it's through I don't know if it's the Power 4 conferences or college football overall is behind it.
But the guy Brian Seeley from MLB that's overseeing this,
right?
That's his.
Okay,
right. Got it.
So every deal that's more than $600, which is basically every deal that's out there, is going to go through this clearinghouse. To me, it seems like a pretty unrealistic workload. I mean, there's a lot of deals, but we'll see how it goes. But one like ours, and I work, as you mentioned, with every True Tiger on the Mizzou ones. We do have another one coming out this year that player to be named. I know, but I can't tell you.
Okay.
But I will tell you when we have it.
Okay, good.
But excited to do another one. And so, we'll submit it, and I don't anticipate any issue whatsoever, because again, it's we pay them, it's fair market value, and always has been.
And then the other question would be, with the players literally being paid from that $20.5 million fund this year, which by the way goes up 4% every year. there will be donations made to the university and the university's athletic departments, which goes specifically to all the athletes. So you'll have outside the purview, but then people will still have to pay that $20.5 million per school is going to have to come from somewhere, right?
Right. So to my knowledge, it is just another line item in the budget, just like paying, staff, whatever. So I think they've got to make room for that. They've got to create more revenue, or, it's a simple budget issue, create more revenue or have some savings. So I think I think Laird Veach has done a great job. I'm a big fan of his and what he's done at Mizzou and really having them ready for this. And I think they are, and I think they're, I think a big difference from school to school with NIL is the ones that embraced it and the ones that didn't. And the ones that didn't are falling behind. And you and I have talked about this before. Coach Drinkwitz very much embraced it and saw the benefit of that.
Well, and I wonder, Chris May sent out an email to season ticket holders last week that said that every NIL situation will be handled by the university, which to me means that there won't be any outside NIL, which to me seems to be kind of self-defeating. If you aren't going to allow outside people that are willing to pay players for their name, image, likeness, if you aren't going to allow them to do that, and everything is going to be done through the university, it seems like other schools already have a head start on you.
I hadn't seen that. I'd be curious to see it. Curious if he, now it is true that any deal has to be approved by the university because I believe they are the ones that then send it to the clearinghouse. But in terms of, that would surprise me if anybody who wants to have one of the basketball players do an appearance would have to go through the university. Because most of these, I tell you what, most of these players, especially in the basketball and football, have agents now.
Right. Yeah.
And that's who sets up most of those deals.
So let me get this, and I've got it, and I can read it to you momentarily because I was intrigued by that too. And I didn't think that this made, at least from the way I understand it, it doesn't make a ton of sense. Here's the way it reads. This major shift in intercollegiate athletics has many programs focused on growing revenues, and St. Louis U is no different. In this challenging time in higher education, it's imperative we remain diligent in managing our resources while making a concentrated effort to increase our revenue streams, especially in the areas of ticketing, donations, sponsorship, and events. It goes on to say, he's got a little Q&A. What does the House settlement mean for those wishing to support St. Louis University? And this is where I got what I got. Now more than ever, your support is needed. Once the House settlement is finalized, and it has been, all donations will be directed through the university, ensuring compliance and the ability to continue offering tax-deductible support under current federal guidelines. NIL will remain a key tool with the funds managed by the university. The Billiken Victory Fund will wind down operations by the close of 2025.
Interesting. So the Billiken Fund that you mentioned, that was a collective per se.
Yeah, that was Troy Robertson.
Yeah. And a lot of the collectives are going away. Some are staying, and the ones that are staying are, for the most part, my understanding is trying to get more NIL deals for the athletes at that particular school. Mizzou, Every True Tiger, is actually an agency of the athletic department, is how it's termed with the legislation. So they've been kind of ahead of the game all along. But I don't know. I certainly don't think that would preclude a company from approaching a player.
Okay. And the reason that I thought that is because of this line. NIL will remain a key tool with the funds managed by the university.
And that's interesting. If that is the case, that they are going to manage all of those, I think they're probably putting their athletes at a bit of a disadvantage.
That's what I thought. And themselves.
Yeah, and themselves. I mean, that's going to be a big part of this. And again, not speaking about St. Louis U in particular, but I think a part of an athlete as they look at a school from a recruiting standpoint is going to be looking at how they embrace NIL and what their NIL opportunities are, not just from a revenue sharing standpoint, but from a true NIL standpoint and what they have the chance of getting. So I think if that is the case, I think that's going to put them at a disadvantage.
Meanwhile, you are staying busy with what's going on in football. As you mentioned, there will be another one coming up in the fall. And Eli made the point at the Tiger Club golf tournament a couple of weeks ago, and I don't think nationally the perception is there. And I just want to get your perception. And obviously, Ken Dubinsky has a biased view. I don't think that around the country, among media members, there's a recognition that Mizzou has a real program in place now, and that it is thriving, and the trajectory is going up. I see that they're ranked number 23 by ESPN in their power rankings. They're number 13 in the SEC in those power rankings. CBS Sports doesn't even have them in the top 20 in their power rankings. I think this program has gotten to the point where maybe you should give them the benefit of the doubt based upon their ability to recruit and develop.
I agree 100%. And yes, I do have a little bit of bias, but but I think the world of Coach Drink and what he's doing. I think what he's done is with the recruiting, he's done well, obviously, but he really has done well in the transfer portal and kind of filling those holes with really good players. And I think he has said they have as much talent as any team that he's had here. And I think that's true. I think it's probably balanced between offense and defense. I think there's certainly some newcomers that we need to see how they do. But I mean, there's a lot of really good players. Damon Wilson on defense, fans are going to get to know him quickly.
And Wilson on one side and Darius Smith. You got a couple, just look at the Philadelphia Eagles sometimes. You got a couple of edge rushers that came from Georgia. Yeah. Georgia evaluated these guys, and they were big-time recruits, and they both transfer, 2 edge rushers from Georgia to Missouri. I think that the defensive line, and I know Al Davis, the defensive line coach, left, but man, I could see the pass rush being fierce at Mizzou.
I agree. And you mentioned Darius Smith. A lot of people kind of forgot about him because he came last year and was hurt.
Yeah.
But he's there, and they are deep. And that's the other thing that they've done, especially in the transfer portal, is they have added depth.
Yeah.
And I think that, especially in the SEC, is going to be, obviously injuries are going to happen. And I think they're a lot better covered for those. I'm excited about the season. I was talking about this last night. I think you've got a great receiving core. You've got Ahmad Hardy at running back is rated. I've seen him rated as the #1 returning running back in the SEC.
Wow.
So I think there's a lot of talent. There's some questions on the offensive line with some newcomers coming in, but they got some top guys. So I'm bullish.
Okay. Matthew, I know you want to weigh in. I just have one more question, Ken, and this is about the overall athletic department, because we talk football and men's basketball, and those are the revenue generating sports. It was interesting to me that Title IX was never mentioned in the House settlement, and there's going to be lawsuits on that. But from your perspective, especially because Mizzou's, they've got a great gymnastics program now, finished 4th in the country. Kelly Harper is being brought in. They've made a big investment in women's basketball.
A lot of excitement.
Yeah. So how involved will what you do be with women's sports at Mizzou?
Always looking for the opportunities. There's a number of things in play that are possible right now that we need to see how some things go, but certainly is something that I'd like to do. And we have done that with Schnucks. Again, a number of the athletes we had. I know Kennedy Griffin, gymnast, was on one of the coffees, and Effany Andre, track, was on the ice cream that's still in Schnuck stores. So we have definitely utilized some of them, and we'll hopefully continue to.
Good. All right. Matthew, what do you got for us? He finished his whole bag of chips.
They were very good.
Good. Excellent. Outstanding, right?
Yeah, incredible combination. I just need to get this out here. Pack Pug says we need some Bo Perbula buttered popcorn. I think that's a good. That's a good
alliteration. If nothing else,
alliteration. I like that. I mean, maybe you do a little. Maybe we do a big a Triton.
Some BP.
Bo Perbula buttered popcorn. We get some like Hardy caramel corn, and then we get like some Kevin Coleman cheddar corn, and we do one of the big bins with the 3 different kinds of popcorn.
That's a great idea
for the skill position players for the Missouri.
I'll need to work on that.
Let's go. I love Bo Perbula buttered popcorn is a great starting point.
It is,
and he is a key guy. And I say a key guy, but I think there really is a quarterback battle, and Drink has said that between he and Sam Horn.
Yeah, Sam Horn's got a lot of talent, and Coleman walks into a place where if he's not the #1 receiver, it'll be an upset, right?
Right. Now I've gotten to know Kevin a little bit. He is just a great kid. And there's a lot of kids like this. I was at the office last week and met a number of them, and Drink has recruited kids that you can be proud of as a Mizzou fan.
Absolutely.
Good kids, know the right, obviously good players as well, but really good kids that you can take pride in. That's who's representing our university.
It's great to hear. Thanks for this. This is Wilsson Contreras. The chips available at Schnucks or wherever you pick up your old Vienna chips. They're absolutely delicious, and Matthew devoured his. And I will see you in a couple of weeks at the Demetrius Johnson tournament.
Look forward to it. Always
Ken,
appreciate
thank
it,
you.
Ken. Randy, thanks.
Ken Dubinsky does so many great things for our community, and we appreciate him being a part of the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central. By the way, Card Central coming up tonight after the game. The Cardinals taking on the Jays, actually this afternoon after the game, 1:15 start between the Cardinals and the Toronto Blue Jays. And we've got Matthew Liberatore going. He'll be opposed by Eric Lauer, and you'll be able to react to that game immediately after the Cardinals and the Blue Jays. And you'll be able to check in here on Card Central 365 on STL Sports Central. Oh, we got even more. Matthew needed more chips, and he's got more chips. In our last 6 or 7 minutes, Matthew, I wanted to touch on what's going on in Jeff City, because there was a guy named Rob Schaff who isn't part of the legislature anymore, but he was a Kansas City guy who was vehemently against St. Louis getting a new football stadium to keep the Rams. And everything he did, fortunately for us, unfortunately the Rams left, but we had a shovel-ready stadium because the governor at that time, Jay Nixon, he imposed his will, and so we were going to get funding for a new stadium. It is amazing to me, and by the way, this is not a bad thing. We're sports people, but it's amazing to me how the Missouri legislature has done essentially a 180 in terms of stadium financing. And now they appear to be on board with providing financing for Kansas City stadiums for the Royals and the Chiefs.
Yeah, they got it done in the middle of the night last week. And apparently the Cardinals, and good for them. I can't blame them for saying, listen, we're not going to just sit back and let other pro teams get this kind of benefit and not find a way to tap in ourselves. I always credit teams when they don't use tax funding. But I mean, even if you want to talk about just like getting like the TIF kind of the TIF help in those kind of areas, which different teams have gotten in the past, there's always some kind of funding coming down, some kind of help. Why there was a while there where everyone was talking about how no one wanted to shoot movies in Los Angeles and everyone wanted to shoot them in Georgia. Why? Tax breaks.
Yeah. And here's the thing, in the state of Missouri, we do it for if somebody wants to build a hotel.
No.
If somebody wants, not that people build malls anymore, but if people want to build a big shopping center, you think that when Stan Kroenke builds a shopping center, he doesn't get help from the government? He does. Now, the money is larger for a stadium, but from a percentage standpoint, if you're going to give Stan Kroenke help, 20%, 30% to build a shopping center, why wouldn't you give a sports team, which is just as valuable, that same 20 or 30% benefit to help build a stadium?
I think there's some people who would push back against your just as valuable claim, because I think there's a lot of people, if you look at the long-term benefit, economic benefit of stadiums, that there are certainly ways you can see the benefit, but there are also, if you look at like hard economic numbers, that it doesn't actually pay for itself in the long term. And I think it might be a little bit different if you're not having to pay for the full weight of it. You're only giving up tax breaks or tax incentives or what have you.
And I'm not talking about necessarily paying for itself. I'm talking about like the number one philanthropic provider in St. Louis before the Rams left was the Rams.
Yes.
We're also talking about the amount. So let's look at it this way. The Royals have an interleague game with the Mets, and Shohei Ohtani is making $765 million. Whatever he's making per game in Kansas City, the Royals get a percentage of that. Not the Royals, but Missouri gets a percentage of what he gets. Same thing with St. Louis. Athletes are taxed when they come to a town, so it's not a money loser. Now, I'm not saying that the entire $2 billion or whatever it would cost be paid for. I just think that it's a smart move to have sports teams in your cities and your states.
Yeah, and it makes sense. And by the way, Cole Bassett's left foot. Are you serious? The Cardinals may build a new stadium? No. The point is that, there could be upwards of $500 million available to them for renovations. Because if you don't know this, it's one of the more public. It's known, but no one talks about it. Which is that the infrastructure down at the stadium needs a lot of work right now.
Yep.
Whenever it rains really heavily, there are parts of the stadium that flood really badly. And they would like, I think, that to not be the case any longer.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And so, giant cement buildings that have giant pools of standing water in the summer aren't fun to be in. And so,
And by the way, 20-year-old building next year.
exactly. And so no, they're not building a new stadium. It is about, though, helping them with renovations that, again, from the Cardinals' perspective, allows them to stay profitable while Busch Stadium remains a good enough venue for everybody involved.
And there was government help from an infrastructure standpoint when Busch Stadium was built, but the structure itself was financed privately by the Cardinals and the DeWitt family.
Yeah. And so, listen, I just don't think there's the idea that you're going to get state-of-the-art stadiums or anything like that without any kind of tax breaks, tax funding, tax what have you. I just don't know if it exists anymore. Even the St. Louis City one, they got some TIF monies and things like that. You're never going to get 100% outside of maybe the biggest markets where politically they've completely shut it down and billionaires are willing to spend $5 billion of their own money to build stadiums.
Yep.
Stanley.
Pretty amazing. Pretty
Yeah,
amazing. Who do you got in the U.S. Open starting tomorrow morning early? And by the way, we've got Jay Delsing on the show tomorrow to talk about the U.S. Open and about his new book. If you haven't bought Dad a Father's Day gift yet, Jay Delsing's new book is a great thing to get. But
I was going to take Scotty,
Good.
but I haven't checked the Colorado Rockies win-loss record as of late.
Yeah.
So I kind of need to balance that out and see if there's still room for Scotty to pull another victory with how the Rockies have been winning a couple of games lately. So I don't know.
Great job. Thank you. Sir.
Is there anybody you should take other than Scotty if you
No.
just want to bet the
No.
smart money?
No,
He's locked in right now.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
And I know that there's like the number 2 odds belong to Bryson DeChambeau.
Okay. The PGA Championship's the one that's always like the winner's like 27 under, and the Open's the one where
The Open
everyone's
is-
like, it's
they-
too hard.
they
We
want
hate
even par.
this.
Yeah.
This is crap. We
Yeah.
all know it's going to be bad, but yet by Monday we're all going to be talking about how there was one part of the course that was an abomination and every golfer hated it.
Yeah,
Okay.
they want everybody to finish even par, and somebody will finish better than even par. Great job, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Matthew Rocchio in for Brooke Grimsley. I'm Randy Karraker. Thanks to Wilson for helping us out as well. And thanks to you for being a part of the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central. Don't forget, Card Central 365 after the Cardinal game. We will see you tomorrow morning at 10:02. So long, everybody.